Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Okay, I guess we're back for the Elk Ridge white smooth bone knives. Now, I think I do own a few other Elk Ridge knives than just these two, but I think these are the only two I have in white smooth bone. And the reason I was picking them up is because I was looking for a white smooth bone knife in like a fixed blade hunter style knife, and also a modern folder in white smooth bone. And while there are quite a few white smooth bone fixed blades out there, there wasn't any in this approximate size. It's basically a 9-inch knife, and that's what I was looking for. And well, I've already done a video on this one, so I will link to it at the end of this video. And right now what we'll do is we'll concentrate on the modern folder here. And so what Elk Ridge calls this is the ballistic. The Elk Ridge Ballistic, and on the other side of the blade you get all the other information. The model number is the ER-A168, and again it says custom designed stainless steel, hand forged in China. Someone kind of chuckled about the hand forged, and I can kind of understand why, because this really looks like it was just punched out of a metal blank and then polished and cut to size and everything else, and tempered and everything. So not truly hand forged, but maybe in China they consider that hand forged. Any case, let's get the real quick measurements of it. If you see there, comes in overall right at 8 inches, just under 8 inches maybe. The blade length is right under, or well, right over 3 1/4 inches. Cutting edge is right at 3 1/4 inches. That's what it looks like to me, about, or just under 3 1/4 inches, something like that. Any case, pretty hefty blade. Obviously, well, it's a liner lock, so it's already illegal in most places where a blade that would be over 3 inches would be illegal also. So we have all that going for it. Action is pretty good. Let's get the final measurement here, and that is the measurement of the handle, and that looks like somewhere around 4 1/2 inches, depending on how you're holding it or so, but somewhere between 4 1/4 and 4 1/2 inches is where the handle comes in. Now, when I originally got this knife, it had a like a lasered etch scene of a mountain or something on there, and that was probably the least appealing part of this knife as far as I was concerned, and I was half tempted not to pick it up. But one of the main reasons I did pick it up is because it was the only flipper knife, or modern auto knife, whatever you want to call it, assisted opening knife, that was out there that was in white smooth bone on both sides. Most of the white smooth bone knives I were finding that did have some kind of white smooth bone just had the metal back, and I really wanted something that was white smooth bone on both sides. The cool thing about it is the pocket clip here, even though it is only one position, you see here it's one position, which is what, tip down carry right side. It can be removed, and I actually put it back on for the video because I usually have it off. I don't care too much for the clip. The clip does work, and it is a deep carry pocket clip. I just don't care for the clip anyway. One of the main reasons it will not reverse is because on this side you have the elk in the moon, or whatever you want to call it, the Elk Ridge elk right there in the circle. It just reminds me of like the elk being highlighted by the moon behind there. And as I mentioned, it did have a mountain scene here, just a lasered etch mountain scene, and that was really what was stopping me from buying the knife originally. I just didn't like the way that looked, but I thought, well, maybe I can sand it off. And at the time I was looking at it, and I did see that it had torque screws, but I was thinking, I wonder if it's actually going to be able to come off, or if I'm going to have to carefully sand it and not hit the bolster here. But it turned out that yeah, these actually loosen up fairly easily and come off on both sides. So on this side, you would have to take off the pocket clip, and then you can take off this side. One of the things that was puzzling me was on this side you have 3 torque screws. On this side you only had 2, and I didn't understand why until I took these off, because the spring assisted is right here underneath the bone there, and that's why this knife moves the way it does. There's just a spring right here that is actually hitting into the mechanism, and the mechanism is basically underneath the bolster here. Notice there is no pivot on this side. The pivot is only on this side. To loosen or tighten the pivot, you have to remove the pocket clip. So the pocket clip is actually hiding the pivot. But the thing is that really doesn't matter, because, well, first of all, let's look at the blade alignment. Everyone's going to ask about that. I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but there's the blade alignment. And here's the action. Flips out really well. Here's the liner lock. It comes across pretty good. You see you have full contact with the back of the blade with the liner lock, and the blade is tight. There is a gap there. You can see the definite gap, but the thing is the blade does not move at all. So it is really strongly in there, and the pivot action works really good. So very strong screw, or I'm sorry, very strong spring back here to keep the action going. And quite frankly, I don't think you really need to adjust anything on here, unless you just don't want the blade to flip open, because as long as nothing's in the way, you got good movement. Goes fast. The blade itself, I like the grind on it again. The grind very much reminds me of what they did with the fixed blade here. See how nice and deep that grind is on here? And both of them have a nice hollow grind there. A little bit of a drop point. You still have the factory file work going on here. You know, it's just laser cut file work there. Doesn't really work very well for jimping, but I guess it does help a little bit. But that's really not the point. That's really decoration. Really nice, nice hollow grind though. You can feel the blade etch, so that might interfere with slicing. I don't know. I have not had any issues with slicing. I have cut up like tomatoes and vegetables and you know, like hot dogs and stuff like that. I have not done anything dramatic with it. Obviously, it's done the whole cardboard and paper stuff, and you can see there the grind on the blade. And you can look over here. I would say it's not the most even grind going on the blade. It's not nearly as noticeable here as it is over here. So if you're looking for a perfectly even grind, you're not going to find it on this knife. But if you're looking for something that has really good action, it definitely has some good action. It pops out really nice. The lockup is strong enough, and you can see the tension on the spring is very strong. So closing it one hand, you can break the action with either hand with you know, pulling the liner over, but then you are basically going to have to push it against something to bring the blade all the way down. Could this pop open in your pocket? Well, considering there's no safety on it or anything like that, I would say yes. I mean, if you're doing the whole right hand tip down carry, this could in theory get caught on something and flip the blade open. But but then you would probably be pulling the knife out of the pocket when that is happening. The thing is that's the whole purpose of the right hand tip down carry, so that this is up against the back of the pocket. But quite frankly, I never trust an automatic knife like this in a pocket unless it has a safety. So most likely what I will do is what I was doing to begin with, and that is remove the pocket clip and carry it in a sheath. You know, basically any 5-inch sheath would work for it, but this one would be nice. See, it goes in pretty well. Made in USA. Knife is not made in USA. If you were to put a lanyard in there, then you could also drop it in there, pull it out with a lanyard, and hope for the best, because you never know if this getting hit by anything is going to pop it open or not. But I would much rather have it on a belt carry than in a pocket carry. But really what I bought it for was for the knife collection, because I wanted something in white smooth bone. I wanted an automatic flipper knife in white smooth bone, and this is the only one I could find at the time with white smooth bone on both sides. And as for the seam, well, that came off pretty easily. But if you notice here, notice now the bone has multiple colors going on here. It's all white smooth bone, but this is really more of a natural bone, and this is actually where the bone has been dyed white. I've started working on this side, trying to get get it to the natural bone, but I haven't gotten that far down yet. I'm going to have to actually grind a little bit more off of here before I can actually start seeing the actual natural bone. It's interesting to note that white smooth bone is often dyed white. It's not the natural white color of the bone. They actually have to dye the bone to make it white. I was told this a long time ago, and it was just a head scratcher to me, but that is really the case. So that's why it's not as easy to make white smooth bone as you think it is, because they often have to dye the bone in order to get it white. And that's also why Case normally calls their bone natural smooth bone, because they don't dye it. It's just natural smooth bone. It's just been treated and you know, for, what's the word? Well, whatever they do to treat the bone, they treat the bone so that it's less likely to crack and all that other stuff. But all in all, not a bad knife. Fit in the hand, it could be better because of the bump here. It's in a bad spot for me. I'm sure other people will find it okay, but it makes me want to grab the knife further back than I would normally want to because of where that bump is. So there's a much larger finger choil up front than it really needs. Because when I put both fingers on, you see my index finger is running there. So I kind of have to move my hand back a little bit. It's not necessarily uncomfortable, but it definitely makes a hot spot if your hand is the size that I have. But again, I mainly bought it for the white smooth bone collection, and it's not a bad knife. I mean, action wise, it's good. Blade thickness is good. It cuts well, you know, and when you get it all the way open, it's a good sized blade, you know. So anyway, I thought I would share that with you. Stick around, I'll throw in some slides of my Elk Ridge Ballistic. let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pies. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.